AI was always going to be a big theme on these earnings calls. And even though we heard from Andy Jassy talking about their spending plans for artificial intelligence, it didn't satisfy what investors were looking for.
No, that's right. I mean, actually, in the quarter, Amazon Web Services did much better in terms of revenue growth than people thought. So it grew 19% year over year, and people were looking for about 17%. So that was encouraging. But as we just heard there, the AI opportunity is really a mid to long term play, and we're not seeing really significant shifts in revenue growth in the short term, but we are seeing a lot of capital spending to create the AI technology platforms these companies need to develop. And they guided to higher capex in the second half of the year versus the first half. There's a very familiar theme that we're seeing across all these big tech companies, that they're really confident in the AI story, but it's very much a patience game for investors that have to trust them that the money they're spending right now is going to be worth it in the long term. And on top of that, for Amazon, online consumer spending is going through a bit of a weaker period, so that part of the business isn't quite living up to market expectations.
Yeah. Another stock that is not living up to market expectation is Intel. I was just taking a look at where the stock has been trading and how it's done over the course of the year. It's almost halved over the course of 2024. This is a year where there's been so much excitement about chip makers, and yet Intel can't seem to get a bid. The results yesterday announcing over 15,000 job cuts. So the story there seems to be quite bleak. Tell us more.
Yeah, it does. I mean, actually, the results in the quarter weren't too far from what the market was expecting, but the kind of forward guidance, particularly on revenue, was way short of market expectations. And obviously Intel, very much the kind of legacy chip maker, really being crowded out of the AI market by people like NVIDIA, and NVIDIA's even developing technology that may threaten Intel's core business. And I think we're seeing those kind of dynamics play out for Intel. They obviously are investing significantly to try to get into the AI arena, but it's coming through at a much slower pace than people thought. So they're having to kind of resize the business to reflect the reality of the trading environment they've got. So yeah, challenging times for Intel for sure.
Yeah, well, one of the other major stocks in Magnificent Seven that we need to talk about is Apple. So Apple did report better than expected revenue growth in the quarter ending in June, but sales in China fell 6.5%. The CEO, Tim Cook, talked more about the challenges from China during the company's earnings call. Let's take a listen.
During the quarter, I should say also that iPad returned to growth in Greater China as it did around the world. And so we continue to be confident in the long-term opportunity in China. I don't know how every chapter of the book reads, but we're very confident in the long term.
Interesting to hear an American CEO talk up the prospects for the Chinese economy. What were the other takeaways from the Apple conference call?
Yeah, so perhaps the biggest one was the kind of forward guidance on revenue growth, so that they're expecting similar growth in the forward quarter to the quarter they just announced, was about 5% year-on-year growth, which is a bit better than the market expected. The market's been looking for about 4%, so that's encouraging. And yeah, to some degree, that comes from their expectations around the iPhone 16 launch, which will come in September, and the new Apple Intelligence or AI features that will be embedded in that, which they're saying they're confident will drive a fresh upgrade cycle amongst their user base. So that could drive revenue for iPhone. We saw a really big swing back into revenue growth for iPads, which was kind of expected, but encouraging to see that come through. So, I think overall, Apple is in a strong position. It's got a really good product lineup. I think the really big focus now is definitely going to be around the iPhone 16 launch and Apple Intelligence, and really quite how strong that upgrade cycle is going to be from those new features that come in.